People love to self-sabotage. What is this? Self-fulfilling prophecy of like self-sabotage.
Don't leave your paint. Don't leave your building materials. Just don't leave your shit. Don't leave your shit. Please.
And then they give me this number and I'm like, what the? The buyer used my toilet and didn't flush. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Hi, I'm Lindsay Hart, licensed real estate broker with the Heart and Homes team at RE/MAX in Motion, known as the heart of the Heart and Homes team.
And I'm Chelsea Smith, New York licensed real estate salesperson with the Heart and Homes team at RE/MAX in Motion.
Hi, Chels.
Hi.
How you doing?
Doing well.
How do you love this real estate market right now?
It is giving us some twists and turns right now, and buyers and sellers are having to adjust, which it's kind of bringing us back to pre-COVID times.
Pre-COVID real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Actually, when I started, it was a straight up seller's market.
Oh, really?
And it never really dropped ever since. So now I'm starting to see it kind of shift back in to be more favorable for buyers.
That's right. So this is how I've heard people talk about it. And you tell me if you've heard this too. And I think we've talked about this before. So right now, because I've had this conversation with sellers, right now, sellers still think it's the 2022 market, which everything was going fast, aspirationally, and buyers were putting in multiple offers, no contingencies on properties, and sellers are still thinking that that's the market. And then buyers are thinking now it's the 2018 market, where they think that we're going to lowball everything and we're just going to we're going to chalk as many contingencies in there as possible, which is funny. And I think if you've been paying attention, I think it's because we now have more inventory on the market than we've had in the last 3 years. So there's this thing called the absorption rate. And that means the absorption rate is the amount of time it would take the current active inventory to sell on the market. And last year at this time, there were 1.4 months or 1.5 months of inventory on the market. This year at this time, there's 3.4 months. So everybody's like, oh, that's a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market. No. It's a balanced market. We're moving towards a balanced market, but we've not seen this much inventory. So everybody's like arms up in the air and like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And interest rates are just nosediving, right? No, like 6.3 is not a nosedive, but, and so buyers are like, oh, what's happening? And of course, then there's the whole, shall we even talk about it? The Cornell hiring freeze. So all of these things combined are creating this shifting market, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're dealing with these buyers and sellers or clients that are kind of like, I don't know what to do. And then they have this wonderful little thing we call self-sabotage. Have you dealt with this?
I have.
People love to self-sabotage. What is this? Self-fulfilling prophecy of like self-sabotage.
I think they're so used to their previous ways that like knowing what the last 5 years were like, and they could list their house. They could do whatever they wanted. They could, they could ask for delayed closings. They could ask for buyers to pay closing costs, or they could do, they don't get that anymore, but they're still stuck in that way. So self-sabotaging.
Perspective. Oh my gosh. As you were talking about that, we're both moms. So it made me think that sounds like children getting their way. Listen, I'm not saying you're children. But it does. It sounds like they're stuck in that. I never even thought about it that way. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Like they're stuck in this time frame that they don't want to be out of, which I get. Like you want that, but then you have to kind of change with the times. So yeah, I guess they're stuck in that, which means that they would then do these things that kind of self-sabotage, and they don't want to listen to us. But buyers do the same things too. So we're not just singling out sellers here. Buyers do the same things too. So I don't know if you've experienced, like, what's your, like, do you have any stories? Like who, I know story time.
I mean, the biggest thing, and this is just kind of across the board, overpricing.
Oh my
Starting from the very start, they want to overprice their home. So the biggest thing that I've run into, well, I want to start high because then I can end up where I want to be. And I said, I would always tell a client, it's when you start that high, you're the one that ends up moving the most, because buyers are going to come in. Maybe. I mean, they might even look at the house and say, well, this is too overpriced. I'm not even interested. The seller has unrealistic expectations for the price of their home. And then that could carry over into everything else. So when I meet with a seller, that's the big thing that we talk about is I want your house to be as close to market value as possible. Now, obviously the market is going to shift here and there, but by using comps for that specific area, we can see what other buyers are willing to pay for a house of similar like, because you can't just throw a number. And that's
it's like spaghetti.
Yeah.
We're going to throw this on the wall
See what
because
sticks.
I think this is what I want. I love it. This is the number I want. So that's what I'm going to get.
Mm-hmm.
The spaghetti on the wall trick. Yeah. And comps, comparable properties, which means kind of like properties that are similar. But it's interesting that you say that, because comparable like when we do that, when we search for properties that are similar, comparable properties, usually we look like a year back. We can't do that now because it's a completely different market than it was last year. So we're kind of just looking at properties that are like 3 to 6 months back. But even then, it's going to be difficult to find properties that are similar, because what we're doing by doing that is we're looking at past buyer behavior.
Right.
What is that buyer behavior telling us? It's telling us what a buyer would do or what a buyer would pay for a similar style property. So that market shift happened pretty quickly. So we can't go all the way back to last year to see what happened, because it's a completely different market than it is now. But yeah, so I was literally just talking to a seller, and they were really cool, which is awesome. Because most sellers, I love when I sit down in a listing appointment. I was just in a listing appointment yesterday with these 2 beautiful sellers in a beautiful property. I won't reveal too much, but it had a beautiful view, a beautiful water view. So, and they were lovely. And after we toured the home, I was there for almost 2 hours. After we toured the home, we sit down, we have a chat, and we talk about properties and value. And what I love to do is I was like, okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have a value here for you, but I want to know what you're thinking, because either I am going to disappoint you or I'm going to make you really happy. Because I told them, because there is realistic pricing, there is aspirational pricing, and then there's delusional pricing. And he looked at me and he goes, well, I don't think we're delusional.
Hey, you're off to a great start.
I was like, okay, so, and luckily we were all on the same page, so we'll see what happens. But that was really cool. But then there's some that I, in the past that I've gone and I sat with, and I've been burned by that before, because I'll have sat down with them and I'll say, okay, so after we walk around, because what I like to do is I'll get the appointment and I'll tell them, I go, okay, so I do my homework beforehand, but then I'll go to the house and I'll say, give me the tour. Then we'll sit down and we'll chat about the market value. I'll answer your questions. We'll talk about the process and everything. And so I've sat down with these folks. I don't know if this has happened to you. You're going to have to tell me, but I've sat down. I've learned my lesson. And I've sat down with these and I was like, okay, so blah, 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 sit down. And I'm like, so based on this, and you can see this is what the past buyer behavior has told us and all of this. And so I think between here and here is your market value in this range. And they look at me and they're like, oh. And I was like, oh, shit. Because I'm like, oh, you're those delusional sellers. Okay. And then they give me this number and I'm like, what the are you? In my mind, I'm like, you could probably read it on my face too, because I'm not great. I am not good at hiding my emotions. I am like, it's just because I'm sure my eyes like went boom. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, then I quickly had to be like, okay, well, I don't think the market can support that. But then, of course, like you said, they want to list high.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to then be like, okay, well, if they're not completely out of range,
Mm-hmm.
then you're like, well, we can be on the market 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
at that price. And then if nothing happens, then we need to talk about a price reduction. But at that point, like if you don't get on the market correctly in those first 2 weeks, then you're going to miss your target market.
Right.
And then you're going to end up chasing the market.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, sellers,
Mm-hmm.
you're self-sabotaging. You've hired me and you got me out here for a reason. You think you clearly are talking to me because you know I'm the professional. And you're like, I'm here relying on you.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea, I'm here relying on you. I've hired you. What do you think? And then they go, oh, no, I want to list it at this. See what? I thought you just said I was the professional. And I told you that this is what the market is telling us. What?
Yeah. It brings me back to
Make it make sense.
mm-hmm. It always reminds me from my very first listing appointment.
Oh,
Not way back, but back when. So I met with the seller and I did the entire CMA. I pulled all of the comps and I went in, we did the house tour, then we sat down and I asked, like, out of curiosity, where's your number? And we weren't terribly far off. I want maybe tens of thousands of dollars. But I said, I think that this is where your house is going to sell for, between this number and this number. And I gave them the reasons why. I said, this is where it's going to support it. And I ended up losing the listing. They went with another agent who came in and said, yeah, I'll list it at that higher number. And it sat on the market. And weeks later, I saw that it went under contract. I said, okay, that's awesome. Well, then it closed for exactly the number that I gave her. And it just kind of, it kind of upset, well, obviously it upset me just knowing that, I lost my very first listing, whatever. But it gave me the assurance that, one, I am the professional. Mm-hmm. I do the work. I pull the comps. I tell you maybe not what you want to hear, but what's going to get your house sold. In this job, we have to kind of be the givers of hard truths. Mm-hmm. We're not going to sugarcoat it for you. And unfortunately, there are some people out there that will sugarcoat it for you to get the listing, to put a sign in the ground. And you may or may not sell at that price that you listed at. But I want to get my sellers to where they need to be. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. And I'm going to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And it just takes me back to that first listing time after time after time, because I'm not going to change my ways. I'm not going to just throw out a number and throw on a listing at some ridiculous number just to put my sign in the yard. I want to do what's best for my clients.
Yeah, you're going to lose time on the market and you're going to end up chasing the market, and you're actually going to get lower than your actual market value, because buyers are going to look at that and be like, oh, well, I'm going to wait for the next price reduction, and I'm going to wait for the next price reduction. And while you're doing that, other properties are going to come on the market that are better priced, because that's your current competition. And let's be honest, when you see two products on the shelf that are similarly priced, and one is $19.99 and the other one is $21.99, and they're really, really similar, which one are you going for? And that's what I tell sellers. Like, logically think about that. But, when you have been, and I get it, when you have been in this house or your house and you're emotionally attached and you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, I get it. And it's really hard. It's really hard to detach from that. So, it's hard to get people to sometimes see the truth. But I would rather have the hard conversation up front and maybe not get the listing than to have the hard conversation of, we need to look at this price and adjust the price, and then have them scream at you. It's like,
Right.
I don't want to have that conversation. I don't want, listen, I hate being the bad guy. Like, I don't want to be the bad guy in your mind. Like, you hired me.
Right.
Don't make me the bad guy.
And I don't want it to sound like we never price drop, because we price drop all the time.
Listen, you got to adjust with the market. You got to go. Listen, the market can change in the matter of weeks. So like,
it's all about the competition that comes on the market. You want to always remain competitive against the house down the road.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you want as many people in your door as quickly as possible.
I was so excited. This was this home. This is the one that I did the music video for. And I was so excited for this house. These people were wonderful. These sellers were wonderful. I love these guys. I love these guys so much. And I had been working with them for 6 months, helping them get their house for sale, advising them. They were so excited. This was a big deal. And I had all these wonderful ideas. It was my first house music video. And we did everything and prepped them. They listened to me, and this blindsided me. So we get on the market and showings started happening, and agents were scheduling showings. And it wasn't until after the fact, after we got on the market, I learned the one seller was like, we can't show it this time, because I work from home. And so I literally I felt so bad. All these agents were calling me and be like, so I can't see it at this time and this time. And we had a ton of activity because this was a popular house. This was a gorgeous house. And I literally, if you looked at the showing time calendar, it had like 3 hours. There was like 12 hours in 1 week that you could only show it. And it was like the most random hours. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. And I'm like, how am I ever going to get this sold? I have just been handcuffed. Everybody wants to see this house. It's been presented properly. It's priced right. It's been brought on the market. Like, they did everything. They got did they do a home inspection? No, they didn't do a pre-listing home inspection, but they got like it all prepared. They listened to everything that I told them to do, the updates that I told them to do to get it ready. And now they're like, oh, it can't be shown. I was like, what? I did not see this coming. So I'm like, how am I supposed to sell your house if we can't show it? So like, that's a huge one, guys. If you can't show your house, you can't sell it.
Honestly, the thing that I found that is the most convenient is listing it right around a vacation that family has planned, or that those sellers. So if the house isn't vacant and you're living in the house and you're planning on going on vacation, let's list it right before that, so that house is completely vacant and it doesn't disrupt anything. Obviously, that's not ideal for everybody. But yeah, that's definitely something that we need to discuss during the listing appointment.
Yeah, I don't think sellers
if
think
there's
about
restrictions, we got to know.
So talking about having the property being available for showings. So there's that. Not only that, but then I've had sellers who wouldn't leave for showings. So talk about making a buyer uncomfortable and self-sabotaging, because buyers need to be comfortable going through your home.
I can tell you they're the quickest showings I've ever been in on the buyer side.
Buyers don't want you there. Like that makes them so uncomfortable, because how are they going to picture themselves there? How are they going to be able to talk freely or walk through your home? Like, that's the worst thing a seller can do, is be home for a showing, because there's no way a buyer is going to make an offer on that home, because they are just going to zip through that house. That's so funny.
Now, I have run into times where the seller physically can't leave.
Right.
And I actually had one not too long ago where the seller was present, and my client actually went in full conversation, and they were it ended up working out. Not that I want to encourage this, please don't listen to, but that conversation between my client and the seller, and luckily there were no other offers where it could have, caused issues or anything, but she was there and she told her about the history of the house and all of that. But then I've also had it where it's completely
Completely backfires.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because my client has run through the house.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to say anything because they don't want to offend the seller. But then afterwards, they're like, I didn't get to look at this. I didn't really get to look at this. I have no idea what the basement looks like. I have no idea. Like, I didn't really get to look into the nitty gritty parts, just like their stuff and the fact that they were there. I mean,
Yep. And that's another, like, that's just the quickest way to not sell your house, because I know you love your house and you want to be there. And, you know, and then when buyer gives you feedback, you get offended because they didn't like the wallpaper. They didn't like the way you decorated. They don't think that your sponge painting wall is worth the $50K upgrade. Or let me tell you, when you upkeep your house, like the things that you're supposed to do, maintain your house, that doesn't add value. That just keeps the value there. That doesn't add on top of it. So yeah, don't get offended when a buyer, you know, doesn't agree with you on those things. So yeah, don't let your feelings self-sabotage you. So yeah, especially when it comes to an offer. And buyers can do this too. Buyers can sabotage themselves too, especially when it comes to offers. Like, that's the biggest thing I see. I think that's the biggest thing we see is when it comes to offering time and negotiation times. I mean, holy cow, that's where everything falls apart. That's where you need us.
right.
That's where you need us the most, negotiations and offers. So I've seen it so many times. Oh my gosh.
I've seen for like a buyer side, especially in a multiple offer situation, the biggest sabotaging effect that you can have is adding too many contingencies or asking for too much from the start. If you're going up against another offer, the least amount of contingencies is going to be the most competitive. However, I am never going to be one that says you need to forego like a home inspection, because if you forego a home inspection and then you close on a property and then you come back at me and said, "What the hell, Chelsea?" No, that is not what I'm going to do. But I am going to help guide you to build your offer that can still include a home inspection that is still competitive. But when you don't listen to your agent on how to build it, I mean, granted, you can listen to us and go like step by step and still might not get the house. I mean, there are, yeah.
So I had this guy. We'll call him Greg. Greg was thrust into my lap because I had an agent that didn't want to represent him in dual agency because it was a multiple offer situation. And so I said, sure, I'll write an offer for this guy. And understanding it was a multiple offer situation, I counseled him and I said, look, on the phone, okay, hi guy, yep, I understand you want to write an offer. I actually hadn't seen this property with this guy. I was familiar with the property, but you know, he understood. He's like, he was fine with everything. So we had a lovely conversation. And I was like, okay, so it's a multiple offer situation. Tell me what you're looking to do. He gave me his story. He said, you know, he's coming from, where he wants to buy this. And I was like, all right, so let's talk about the offer. Here's how the property is priced. And it's priced very competitively. Obviously, it has multiple offers. And so we talked about how he's going to purchase it and his financing, and come to find out that because we were sort of under the gun, under the pressure, because they were reviewing offers that evening, I asked him about financing, and he's like, well, I could go to the bank, but here's my financial situation. I said, oh, great. So we could put you in a cash position. And if you get the house after the fact, you could then take a mortgage out on the property and replenish your brokerage account that you would be using to purchase this via cash. He's like, yeah, that's a great strategy. I like that strategy. Let's go with that strategy. Great. Okay. We're going to go with that strategy. Talk to him about the earnest money deposit in an offer. Talk to him about the contingencies in an offer. So because he was a cash position, there was no contingents. There was no financing contingency, right? But he did want to put in a home inspection contingency. Okay, great. Who doesn't want to know what they're buying, right? He wants to check out the house, even though he'd been to the house and he agreed that it was structurally sound. He agreed that it wasn't going to come back, and nothing was going to come back red flagged. And he agreed it was in great condition. And I said, okay, it is a multiple offer situation. Just so you know, the more conditions that you have in an offer, the less likely a seller is to accept that offer, especially in a multiple offer situation where there is another offer that is almost exactly alike without that condition. Okay, yep, I said, yep, we'll put that in there. I wasn't advocating for him not to have that. So we put that offer in with the escalation clause. If you don't know what an escalation clause is, it's kind of like eBay where you bid an amount up over to your highest cap. So we put that in there, submitted his offer. He was happy, waited and waited, and we heard back. We didn't get it. Surprise, surprise. I talked to the listing agent. I said, okay, so try to extract as much information as possible. Come to find out, it basically came down to the fact that there was a home inspection in our offer and there wasn't in the other. And other than that, they were exactly the same. I'm getting that out of the agent. Didn't come right out and say it, but that's what I
you
got.
implied.
Yeah, that's what I inferred. So I do what I do, right? I get on my Tahoe, I do my Tahoe talk, and I post it on my socials. And TikTok does its thing, and I'm just giving the story, saying risk and reward, right? So this buyer, I wouldn't say he completely self-sabotaged, but I gave him the advice, and I said, this is what's going to happen. How badly do you want this? What is your threshold of risk? And he was okay. Like, his threshold of risk is he wasn't going to remove that home. So his threshold of risk was such that he didn't. It was low because he didn't want to remove that home inspection contingency. So I went to the Tahoe. And I did my thing, and I posted on socials, and TikTok did its thing. And I was just giving the story of, hey, in general, buyers understand next time you make an offer, or if you're a buyer out there in general, and if you're making an offer and there's multiple offers, understand this. If a seller has multiple offers, and all things being the same, if one doesn't have a home inspection and one does, the seller is always going to go for the one that poses the least amount of risk to the seller. That's it. So I put that out there, and TikTok did its thing. And I got all these comments that said, how dare you advise him not to have a home inspection? And how dare you this? And how dare you that? And then somebody says, well, if the seller goes for an offer without a home inspection, that's a red flag on the seller. And I'm like, I want to go answer that one. I want to go answer that one and talk to that one and be like, if you were the seller and you had 3 offers in front of you, all the same price, all cash, one of them has a home inspection and one doesn't, which one are you choosing? Yeah, I think the seller's going to go for the one that's less risky, the one that provides the least amount of outs for that seller. Right. So I'm not saying that that's a huge self-sabotage for a buyer, but I just thought that was an interesting story.
I can kind of piggyback off that in the sense that it could be considered self-sabotaging as a seller if you don't provide a pre-listing inspection.
I love this.
That is my number one suggestion for all sellers, because it takes away, like we were saying, the risk that a buyer, even if it's not a multiple offer situation, if you get an offer from a buyer and it has a home inspection, you then could be looking at renegotiating the price, credits, making repairs yourself or having to hire it out, or you lose that deal. And if spending $600-700 at the very beginning is going to remove the chance of potentially negotiating thousands or losing a deal, why wouldn't you do that? That is my biggest push for all sellers, is do a pre-listing inspection. Because if there is anything that comes back, 1, we can disclose it. 2, we can price your house accordingly. And 3, you're not making those changes. Like, once you sign that contract, that's what you're selling for. There
Nobody's-
are no
yeah.
changes unless, like, God forbid, appraisal or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But once you sign that contract on that purchase price,
That's it.
that's what you're closing for.
And it manages everybody's expectations. Also, I want to point out, Chelsea said $600 or $700. 6, 7.
I'm not. My kids aren't that old
6,
yet.
7. Sorry, I had to. I have 2 teenage boys. I don't even know what that means, but you said that and I started giggling like a teenage boy.
And and you know where that takes me, because my kids are, my oldest is 7, and it takes me back to the joke. Like, why was 7 afraid of 9? Because 7, 8, 9.
Why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry. Dad jokes.
I've got little kids. She has almost teenager.
Oh my God. Teenagers.
Like,
I can't.
I mean, you have men in your house.
I do. Right. So I couldn't help it. She said, did you see me laugh when she said 607? Oh my God. I'm an idiot. Okay. I just wanted to look into the mic and go 6, 7. All right. It did. My intrusive thought won. Sorry.
Great. Now we're
So
expanding our audience.
Yeah. What's going on TikTok, baby? Do you know, my son's kids, or my son's, oh my God, my son's friends, my kids' friends. Some of them found me on TikTok and he's so mad. He's going to hate it.
That's okay. That's what moms are supposed to do.
Yeah. Yep. So I have been advocating for pre-listing inspections, which is just a home inspection. Mm-hmm. It's not anything special, since the beginning of time, since like 2015, 2016. Mm-hmm. And I have the greatest story of all time for this, because I tell this all the time. It manages expectations. I tell this to every seller. I go, this is why you need to get a home inspection. I had a seller get a home inspection, but without the radon test. So not only should you get a home inspection, but you need to include the radon test. And on top of that, I have been telling the sellers to, if they're on a well and septic, get the well test done. Do your well test, because you have to do that anyway.
Right.
It's part of the contract. And get your septic pumped and certified. Mm-hmm. It's good for 3 months. And the fact that if you've priced your house right, you're going to get a contract within the first 2 weeks. So if you get that septic pumped and certified, it's good for 3 months.
Right.
So get those things done. One, it's going to make the transaction move faster. Mm-hmm. You're going to get to closing faster. You're going to have all these things done. You don't have to worry about it. Also, if you can, get that survey done. Mm-hmm. These are all things that you can get done ahead of time that will help you not sabotage your sale. So with that pre-listing home inspection, get that radon test, because if you don't, here's what can happen. I had a seller do the home inspection, but didn't do the radon test. They're like, we don't need it. We're not going to do it. And this was probably 5 or 6 years ago. They get the home inspection. They don't do the radon test. The home inspection comes back. Nothing major is found. They did find some things that they fixed, a couple of the little things. We get it on the market. We provide the home inspection to the buyers. Great. The buyers have all the information that they want. It makes it possible for the buyers to say yes to the house, to say yes faster, and to say yes to the price, right? Offer comes in. The buyer says, waives the home inspection contingency. However, they want a radon test. So the buyer does a radon test. Guess what comes back astronomically high? The radon. Had the seller done a radon test along with the home inspection, they would have known this. Instead, they didn't. So we spent the next 2 to 3 weeks negotiating radon, the seller's getting pissed off, dealing with this. I mean, it was a freaking mess for 3 weeks. Delayed closing. We could have handled all of this
right from the
ahead
start.
of time, before we even sold, if they had simply just added the radon test
Which I
to the
think
home
is like
inspection.
$125.
Back then it wasn't. This was even less, because it was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, that was my question. What was the difference between
$100.
how much it would pay to take the test versus how much they lost?
It would have cost them, it would have cost them $100. Instead, it cost them $3,000.
Because they had to install the mitigation system.
$3,000 in 3 weeks, instead of spending $100 and learning about it ahead of time and figuring out what to do then. Instead, it cost them emotional distress, $3,000, and 3 weeks to figure out.
Which it still could have cost them $3,000 because they still probably would have.
But they would have had time to shop around, figure it out instead of offering oh my gosh, it was a headache. So now I'm like, every seller, I said, here's what can happen if you don't get the radon test ahead of time.
Now, I don't know if a lot of people know what radon is.
It is a naturally occurring gas that escapes from the earth since the beginning of time, and it takes the path of least resistance. It comes up through basements, cracks in basements, foundations. Get the test.
Get the test because it could cause some serious health concern.
Over a long period of time, if you're exposed to it enough.
Right.
It is, I don't think it's proven, but I think it's suspect.
Right.
It's EPA. EPA recommended limits are 4.0.
Yep.
picocures
And there
per liter.
are home tests that you can do too.
Yeah. Go to
Like
Lowe's.
if you're not looking to buy or sell and you just want to kind of test if you have cracks in your foundation floor. And it's the lowest level of living.
Lowest living level.
It is not necessarily the basement. If it's a crawl space, if it's anything like that, it's the lowest level of living, which I was actually just in negotiations on that because we also, they did a radon test, but they wanted to do the test themselves.
Oh, right.
So they borrowed a friend's test. They did the test themselves. And I did advise to the agent, you can absolutely do the test. My sellers are willing for your client to come in and do the test. No big deal, but it has to be done properly. And they're also, if he's going to do the test, if it does come back high, negotiations may be limited because he's not a licensed, tester. No problem. He just wants to do it just for his own informational purposes. Great. He said it incorrectly.
Oh.
He said it in the basement where it is not livable space. It is just like storage and it's an old basement. It's an old farmhouse, whatever. And he came back and was like, it's right around 4. I think it was just over 4. And we said that, we will definitely entertain a credit request, but we want you to retest. We want you to retest in the proper location. And he ended up not doing it. And I think it kind of just got pushed under the rug and he just kept moving along. But you have to do it properly.
Yeah.
You have to, if you're going to do a test yourself, which is fine, but just know that you might not be able to negotiate like you would. And you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So highly recommend a licensed inspector or a contractor who knows what they're looking for and someone who's licensed to actually test radon.
There are certain levels of home inspections. You can choose to make it a part of your home inspection, but it costs extra. So depending on the inspector you use, there's lots of different inspectors. I know of one company that has different packages, and different packages cost different levels and they include different things. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the pettiest thing that I've seen blow up in negotiation. This lawn isn't mowed. I want a $3,000 credit. I'm like, are you serious? Like you're willing to walk away from this at the last second over the lawn not being mowed? I will get my mower out there and mow it for you. Like what the?
I have.
Trash. What about trash? Oh my gosh. I have actually it's not super petty. And I have saved deals. I'm not about ready to blow up my seller's world over final walkthroughs. I just did this deal with an agent and God bless her. I love this agent. I will do deals with her all day. We had this closing. Finally, this deal was unique. It was 2 houses selling in the city, in Ithaca proper, 2 houses selling. And the agent brought a brother and sister to buy it. And this couple that I was helping sell, they were lovely. And it was unique, but we had some hiccups. And we got to the end. Oh boy, we got to the end finally. And at the end, they do their final walkthrough, right? A buyer does their final walkthrough to make sure everything is fine. And as is, since they had visited last or since the home inspection. And the house is supposed to be free and clear of all debris and tenants, barns, basements, everything.
Pick it up, tip it over, and if it falls, get it out other than a place.
No paint. Oh, good God. Nobody wants your paint. Nobody wants leftover paint from 50 years ago. Here's the thing. Oh, sellers, God bless you. You do this and I hate it. We all hate it. Nobody wants your shit. Well, my house came with it. Well, the house came like that. It came with it. I don't care. Get it out. Nobody wants your shit. So instead of blowing this up because my sellers were on edge from this whole thing, I was not about to call them at the last minute and be like, so you left stuff in the barn that needs to get out. I was not calling them up. This is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we shield you from, folks. This is what we shield you from. I talked to the buyer's agent and she's like, yeah, there's some stuff in here. I go, okay, how much? Take a picture. Show me. I go, I got a guy. I got a guy. I called the junk guy up. She's like, I'll split the cost with you. I go, let's do it. We got the junk hauler in, $350. The deal was done. I go, that's my threshold of risk. I'm willing to spend my own money not to upset these sellers anymore. I wasn't going to call them up at the last hour and be like, oh, by the way, you have to get this stuff out of here. And they would have just, no, I'm not doing that to them.
I actually had a buyer about a year and a half, 2 years ago, who we got to the house. We did the final walkthrough. The amount of stuff that was left.
Don't sabotage yourself at the last minute, sellers.
It looked like this seller picked up his bed, his couch, and his dog and walked out. I'm not even kidding you.
Wait. Was it part of the contract?
There were, I just had picture after picture. There's stuff in the cabinets. There's stuff in the bedrooms. There was stuff still in the shower, the refrigerator. The garbage was still in, literally everywhere. It looked like the guy was still living there and just sleeping on a floor. It was mind-boggling how much stuff was left. And then we go outside and there was a shed out there and it was packed full, like right up to the brim. Mind you, we're there the night before closing.
Did they not know that?
Yeah, they knew. He just didn't want to do it. So I looked at my client and there was also the funniest thing about this. There was this orange Jello-like substance in the yard.
Sorry.
And my buyer and I, we looked at each other and we're like, what is that? Like, what is that? And it's like jello-y and I like get a stick and I poke it and it's like, it's disgusting. And it's like this huge blob. And there's like a pot right next to it and garbage everywhere. I was like, I have no idea what this is. Like, we started taking pictures and I sent it to inspectors and people to try to figure out if it's like hazardous. But I had no clue.
The orange blob story.
The orange blob. And I called the agent. I was like, okay, first of all, we have some major issues. I am not letting my client sign anything tomorrow because of the amount of stuff. If you want to close tomorrow, we need, I think it was like a $300 or $3,500 credit for a dumpster. She is willing to haul your seller's crap out, but it's going to pay. Like, he will pay for it. And she's like, no, he's not willing to do the credit. I was like,
what?
Okay, so what are you going to do? And she's like, he's going to come and clean everything out over the weekend and we'll close on Monday. I was like, okay, good luck. And sure enough, that house was spotless by Monday. And I went back and I was like, by the way, what the hell is this? And it came out to be like some like protein energy drink powder. I was like, that's disgusting. Don't ever. So, okay, sellers, if you use energy powder, protein shakes or anything, don't dump it in the yard because you're going to have DEC and all sorts of people called. Like, I legit thought it was like chemicals or something hazardous. Like, I think I still have the photo.
Oh my God.
I think if I search orange blob.
Yeah.
But literally it looked like he picked up his bed, his dog bed, and walked out.
Wow.
You cannot do that. And if you do it, it's either going to cost you a hell of a lot of money in dumpsters or junk removal, or it's going to delay closing, or you're coming back and you're going to clean everything out. Mm-hmm. Not, mind you, there's been times where I've cleaned stuff out and I think there was one where my car, I did 2 or 3 trips and my car was absolutely packed full of stuff that needed to go to a dumpster, but I needed it out. I did that for my client.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking that amount of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't leave your paint. Don't
Oh,
leave
no.
your building materials. If there's extra tiles, fine, but check with the buyer first because they might not need those.
Mm-hmm.
They might be ripping up the floor anyways. So
Mm-hmm.
just don't leave your shit.
Mhm.
Don't leave your shit. Please.
Speaking of,
Oh no. I feel like this is a little shit story.
yep. Speaking of,
I'm not
buyers.
sure where we're
Yeah.
going with this.
Speaking of sabotaging,
Okay.
buyers going through a house. Etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget, the majority of homes these days have Ring cameras
Oh yeah.
or security cameras.
Oh yeah.
So we are
Sometimes
advising
inside the house,
inside. Yeah.
like ones with big yards. But this is a story from a long time ago. I mean, like there are things that buyers do that sellers hate. If we're talking about sabotaging, and if you really like the house, and there are cameras, and I mean, we're going back into the archives here for this one, but there are buyers that use sellers' bathrooms. And I mean, I've seen some stories on social media, but this actually happened in real life. And I think our next guest is going to talk about it. When on our next episode, our next guest will talk about this. But buyers, there's some etiquette, and you don't want to sabotage yourself, especially if you like the house and want to put an offer in. And I mean, I understand if you have children with you, but then that's another thing. If you don't want to sabotage, like don't bring everybody with you to a showing.
Right.
I mean, that's a whole other.
We can schedule multiple showings.
Oh my gosh. Using the bathroom.
Sometimes you just got to go when you got to go.
Oh, but this is like, they had to go because apparently when the seller came home after the showing, it was still there. The buyer hadn't flushed, and the seller calls me up and it was like, somebody used my toilet. And I was like, what? So, I mean, I understand like when a seller comes home and is like, they left the door unlocked, or they left these lights on, or like, you know, I understand that, but I got a seething phone call. The buyer used my toilet and didn't flush. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this?
I guess we need now to add into agent remarks. Please flush the toilet.
Or don't I'm sorry. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, make sure it flushes. Like, oh my God. Buyers.
I saw a thing on Instagram the other day that just had me
I know,
rolling on the
right?
floor laughing. It was this agent kind of telling horror stories. And she's like, I had to go. Really, really bad. I had to go. And then I found out the water was shut off. Oh my God.
Yes.
It happens.
Like, we're human.
Right. I understand. One, maybe ask if it's
Right.
definitely use.
Maybe this is, you know what? We need to write this down. Maybe this is a question we have to ask during a listing appointment. Is it okay if buyers use your bathroom if they really have to use their bathroom?
Right.
I think I'm gonna use this from now on. I think I'm gonna write this down. I'm gonna ask sellers.
Actually, it's not.
Can we use your bathroom if a buyer comes through and it's an emergency? Can they use your bathroom? Either way, I think this is a valid question. I think we're onto something.
Yeah. And make notes if water is shut off. That would probably be a good thing.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's valid. That's valid.
I need to make that note in one of mine. I was representing the seller, and we were on the market for quite some time. We ended up receiving an offer, but it was with a home of sale contingency. And my client literally did everything right all the way up through. We did the pre-listing inspection. We did the septic. We did the water. I mean, everything. And they were willing to work with this buyer home sale contingency, great. Please just do your own due diligence and do a pre-listing inspection before you go on the market. And the agent who was representing the buyer was like, my clients don't think they need one. I was like, just because they don't think doesn't mean that they can't. Like, there's material defects that you can't see. Like, are you climbing up in the attic? Are you crawling in the crawl space? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? I said, I understand your home is recently renovated. It's newer. Pictures look beautiful. Looks like it's in great condition. But I highly, highly, highly recommend you do a pre-listing inspection to get an offer on your house quickly so you can remove the home sale contingency for my clients, because I don't want you to sit on the market and you to delay my client. Like, let's keep all of this moving. Now there's many, many, many parts involved. So a home sale contingency is when a buyer is purchasing a property but has to sell their home first. So we are seeing more of it now that the market is kind of balancing out. We have seen more of it. But typically with that, they get so many days to receive a contract for their house to then move forward with the purchase of this new house. Because a lot of times the bank says you can't hold 2 mortgages. So, but basically they were ready to go on the market, and they again said no to a pre-listing inspection. I wasn't their agent. I only gave that advice. The agent kind of brushed it off. The sellers brushed it off. The buyer, seller, whatever. Anyways, they go on the market. They actually end up getting multiple offers a couple weeks into, like, it's slow the first couple weeks, and then all of a sudden they get like 2 or 3 offers, and they accept an offer with a home inspection contingency. The buyers do it, and it comes back with the entire attic, the front facing, like the front part of the house, is covered in black mold. So they try to negotiate price. They try to negotiate repairs. And the buyers for my seller's house, they then come back to my seller and try to renegotiate that purchase price because they can't afford the repair on their house. So they have to like maneuver. I was like, your repairs that you need to do on your house that you didn't find before you put it on the market, like I suggested, are not going to cost my client money. Like, you want my client to lower the price that you're buying this house so you can pay? No. Had they just done a pre-listing inspection when they listed their house, they wouldn't have had this deal completely fall apart. They lost that sale. The buyers walked. They then tried to extend it, and we allowed an extension to go back on the market. And then we received another offer. So we had the home sale contingency that was technically under contract. But if we receive another offer, we have to give the one that we're under contract for, I think it was 72 hours or whatever, to remove that. And they couldn't. So not only did they lose the buyer for their house, they lost the sale of my seller's house because they didn't do a pre-listing inspection.
Oh, the dominoes.
Had they done that, they would have been able to either price it accordingly, disclose it, or repair it. They would have sold their house to buy this house.
So $600, $700
6, 7.
lost them.
Whatever that means.
Lost them everything. Yep.
It's the little things that you can do to best prepare yourself to put you in the position that you need to be in to buy or sell.
It's perspective too, like in that threshold of risk. So, and like just shifting your perspective a little bit and not getting offended by little things, right? And it's sometimes hard to get out of that perspective because you're selling your house, you know. Sometimes it's a house that you've been in for 40 years. Sometimes it's a house that you just built and you've made custom to what you love. So when somebody comes in and possibly criticizes it, you take offense to it. So when you go to sell it, remember It's a product on the market. So try not to take offense to it and shift that perspective a little, because if you do have an ultimate goal, keep that goal in mind. Look at the bigger picture. Play chess, not checkers. And don't self-sabotage. Buyers, same thing. You have an ultimate goal. Don't trip up on the little things. Don't trip yourself up. Don't sometimes overthink things. Keep the bigger picture in mind. Don't self-sabotage.
You can make that property into your home over time.
You know, the best thing I ever heard is there is no perfect home, but there is the right home.
Next episode on Under Contract, Taking Backup.
There's a saying, it's marry the house and date the rate.
So I went through and down the hall and into the bathroom. And when I opened the bathroom door, it was very clear to me that the realtor, or someone, I assume the realtor because they were there after the clients left, had used the bathroom in a way that would be indicative of taking your time, maybe reading the newspaper. So you don't buy a camper in the middle of buying a house.